Don't forget to breathe. And finding that peaceful place inside of yourself, where you know your connection with all of the universe. There is no separation between here, now, or the ancestors. So we invoke their presence to be here with us at this time, in this place, lending their expertise and knowledge and wisdom. And as we open ourselves for the healing vibration, we say Ashe, 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 Ashe. So we know your connection. Wow, it is the full moon. So you know what that means. This is a time for us to do whatever it is that you want to bring to you. Anything that you want to do, you have 5 days to do your magic. This is that time, energy. So David's going to talk to us about this particular aspect of the full moon and what we can do, what we need to look out. So I present the wizard, David Hurt.
Ready to soar, ready to soar. This full moon is in Aquarius. That's a specialty for me. That's my rising sign. I'm supposed to be on point today. No pressure at all. Yeah. Fly high, fly high. Aquarius. The sign of Aquarius is all about the mind. And coming outside of that box. It's ruled by Uranus. Planet of freedom, everybody wants that. Even though we don't know what it is or what it costs, everybody's reaching for it anyway. But we can take it as a concept to start from. Freedom is a responsibility that comes with freedom. If you will have, there are things you have to do. Things that have to be known, things that have to be understood. One of the first things is, and since we're saying that this is the moon sign, Moon in Aquarius is a thinker. Doesn't feel very much. Doesn't use its feelings as a prognosticator or even a tool to figure things out. It puts it on the side. It becomes very disciplined. If you know any Aquarians, people who are Aquarius oriented, you say that person is cold. And to the rest of them, they seem that way. They have something that's working that's pretty good because they can be more objective than most people, even when it comes to something that's very close to the heart, which is where the sun is right now. The sun rules our heart. That's where our passions are. I believe in the little blurb we sent out, we're going to talk about what part good feelings play in this, and specifically what part with sexuality and feelings and emotions comes into play. Because Saturn is in that sign right now, transiting that sign, is making a square to both the sun and the moon. Square aspect usually sets up a challenge. It says, in order to realize what you're going to realize, you're going to have to work because you have set things in place as obstacles to you getting to what you say you want. You don't remember doing this, but that's okay. You know that you have the obstacles. You run into them in this life. If we can just put a little light on that. When we come to Earth, as a physical being, part of us comes through the sun. And that part is always endeavoring, is always filled with health. It has a tendency towards health. The moon, which used to be part of the sun and the earth, after the separation, after you come through the sun, there are parts of you that come through the moon. These things that come through the moon have never been through the sun. Never experienced that. And if a person ever becomes unbalanced, in this case I'll use the word out of alignment, other people say they're sick or ill, it's because those elements that have never been to the sun have a tendency towards illness. And they work from our body up to the head. The head is reflective of the sun. So if your head ever gets ill, it's because things have been coming up, radiating through the body, because you don't know. It's dark down there. Things just happen. It's unconscious. You just do things because they're from the former life that you've never looked at. Most of us don't even remember. But that's part of what we're coming to this plane for. Not just to remember what happened in the other lives, but to progress in this one. When we progress in this one, with those sun forces that are leading you to enlightenment, leading you to knowing, leading you to science, that's when you run into those emotional issues, we can call it. Or you run into those physical blocks, embodiment, congestion. And when you're young, because a lot of your energy is coming from that sun-based place, you're strong enough to overcome those things without too serious illnesses, but not your childhood illnesses before they have to build up your strength. Psychically and spiritually overcome those little nerves and blocks that you have. But they need to be addressed. This is the challenge of living in this world. In astrology, we usually do segments of looking at life through the 7-year period, 0 through 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. Puberty is everybody aware of that. Men's voices change. Females have their first menstrual cycles. This is all about coming to awareness of things that you didn't know before. When you think about it, the guys in the room, they can think, people say, oh, your voice is getting deep. You may not have noticed it. That's what other people are for, to help you remember who you are. You have a lot of members out there that are yours, but you don't pay very much attention to them. Mm-hmm. This is where the sign Aquarius comes in, because it likes to think about all those things. Why is this? What is this for? Why did that happen? Nobody else is asking those questions. And Aquarius just doesn't ask the questions. They get outside the box. They'll ask other people, people give them the answer, and they say, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. They say, where'd you learn that from? People say, I got it from a book. Teacher told me. And I said, okay, that's good. But why do you believe it's true now? Do you have the experience of what this book told you, what this person told you? This is where us Aquarians are coming in. People say, why are you asking those questions? They're not important. That's it. Well, they may not be now, but I might be able to use it later. You never know. Let's throw time into the mix a little bit. Time and space. Because we all live in both of them, but time is a very elusive thing. And sometimes when you're doing stuff you like, time goes like that. When you're doing stuff you don't, it takes forever. Being on the job, doing something you don't like doing, time is just waiting for something to cook. Taking too long. So, man developed the instantaneous everything. At least they tried to. There are consequences to that, but we're not going to dwell on that. Keep on moving in space. Our physical sciences teach us that two different things can be in the same space at the same time. Spiritual science realizes different. Physical science doesn't recognize a lot of things that spiritual science puts forth. But I'll put it forth for you to look at. And today, this is just the beginning of the radical things I'm going to tell you. So you don't have to believe them at first. I just like you to put them someplace where you can look at them. But spiritually, we invited our ancestors in here and our guides, and they're here now. They were here before. We're just now becoming aware of them because we have now put our consciousness, we set our consciousness, raised it up from wherever it was before. And now we're attuned to them, and they're attuned to us. We're sharing the things that we're getting. They're helping us assimilate it, and they're learning from us also. So they are sitting on top of you right now. They're interspersing where you are right now. You can't feel it because they're spirit. This is where our physical science kind of like draw the line. They say, well, we can't prove any of that. It sounds good, but it's not important to us, and so they just leave it out. They leave a lot of that stuff out. And so in your life, all those spiritual things are left out. Consideration of it anyway. So they figure out stuff by looking at what happens. They measure stuff, they weigh it. They say, okay, this is the reason. Then they give that to you in a book or an equation and say, that's all there is to it. But we know just through our feelings, something that we can't see either, that's not quite spiritual, but is on the way there. There's something else going on that those scientists can't measure, so I can't really lean on them that heavy. We just want to deal with physical stuff, find it well, but we know that there's a whole lot more going on. This is back to the Aquarius thing. Again. Now the symbol for this Aquarian moon, 18 degrees, 19 degrees of Aquarius. There's a forest fire going on. I don't know if you've ever, probably none of you have experienced one, but if you've seen it on television, it's a pretty intense thing and pretty scary too, because they're very difficult to control. And the people that fight them, it takes everything that they have, all their physical strength, all their mental strength, all their emotional strength, and whatever they believe in. And they need some spiritual help too, otherwise that fire is just going to burn everything all the way through. So this is the symbol that this full moon is bringing to us to look at. And saying that there's anything that you want, and all of us want something, you have to use everything in you to get it. And to the extent that you don't, that's where you're going to fall short. You're going to leave things out in the physical world that will help you get there because you're not using everything that you got to get what you want. Nobody's there to judge you or to give you a grade on what you're using and what you're not using. This is up to you. This is your life. This is what you're about. What is it you want? Nobody else knows. Most people don't even care. So it's always going to fall on you. But you have spiritual help. This is where Leo comes in. It's reminding us it's on the other side. Now, a lot of religions talk about demons, the devil, Satan. And I'm not going to say that those concepts don't exist because man has created them, so now he has to deal with them. But is there any truth behind it? Or is there a power or force or form that plays the role of this shadow, this darkness that everybody seems to be challenged by? And I'm saying if this full moon is asking you to take a look into the shadows and see if this is a reality or not, we're asking you to take a new look at an old devil. See, maybe he's changed, or maybe he's always been changed from what he's been presented as. Because we always look at things as we've been indoctrinated from the physical plane, so we look at things like that. And then we kind of freeze frame and say, okay, this is what it is, and we go through life and say, this is how it's always going to be. But everything on a physical plane is transitory, doesn't last. Everything comes to an end. So if you think that the devil lives on this plane, on this physical plane, I'm going to suggest to you that you're sadly mistaken. And that he has a place and a part to play in your life and development of your spiritual awareness and your soul's awakening. And you couldn't get there without him. The people that he attaches to, people that he connects to in your life, you think they kind of mean to you, but you things you don't like, things that make you feel uncomfortable. And in your feeling nature, you react to it, like most humans do. That's what feelings are there for, to react. But remember, this moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is, what are you reacting to? I never stopped to think about that. I wonder what would happen if I would stop and take a look. What am I reacting to? Rather than putting on that energy to just jump it up, going off with somebody or something. Go to rage. Somebody step on the foot, somebody talks about your mother, somebody slaps you. Do you know what's going on in this situation? Have you even looked? This is the question. The Aquarius is about looking. And they're not looking at the physical plane because they know that that's only going to give them part of the answer. We said that you came from a spiritual place. The sun part of you was filled with health, light, and love. The other part has some things that you have to address, things that you left undone when you were here before. But how would you know about them unless they manifest on this plane? And so they're beginning to manifest on this plane now. And as we look around in the world, we see it in the headlines, we see it in our own lives. A lot of situations that we think could be a lot better, that we hope could be a lot better, but what are we doing about it? So we say you're coming to consciousness, and we are. It's a long journey, though. And if you're not using everything that you got, like those people that are putting out the fire, how are you going to bring it to a conclusion? Scorpio. When somebody says the sign Scorpio, when guys think about that, they start getting happy because they say, look, if it's a female, they say she's got da 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 da. And this is their material concepts of what's going on. And sometimes the ladies do it the other way too. What is that really? What are you being attracted to? Saturn going through that sign, Saturn's a taskmaster, it's your teacher. So what is it trying to teach you as Saturn goes to Scorpio? And that's where it is now. It's making a hard aspect to all the good things about you and all the things that you have challenges about. Saturn's in the middle saying, I wonder what kind of goodies we can stir up in your mind now. What is it that you really want? What is it that you think you want? Because thinking doesn't always make it so. And let's talk about thinking. In this world, everything is a duality. So you have a higher and a lower. And not the lower is bad, it's just lower. And from different perspectives, sometimes you can't tell what's high and what's low. Things get changed around. And life has a way of putting you in positions that either nothing's happening or everything's happening at the same time coming at you and telling you, pick something, pick out the priority. And if you haven't thought ahead of time and prepared yourself, you don't know what to do with either one of those extremes. It goes back and forth, forth and back. What do you do? Look at that Aquarius. The only thing, Rita has a little joke. She said, before I got here, she used to tell people things and people had a hard time absorbing it. And after I showed up, I listened to the things that she was saying. I said, people can't hear you because you're talking too far beyond it. And you don't realize how really brilliant you are. And it's not a bad thing, there's just a gulf there that they can't get across because they haven't been exposed to the things that they're really exposed to. This is something that she became aware of. And in the process, I do my thing, I'm in prayer. So I ask questions. The questions that I ask put the people in an uncomfortable position most of the time. They really don't want to hear my questions. They don't want to hear the response that they have to give. Now, I push them to the edge, but if they don't want to talk about it, I say, fine, conversation's over. See you next time. But once the question is asked, it's in there. It's part of your experience. It's part of your reality because the question that I asked, I pulled out of you. It's not my question. Remember, clients don't care about that stuff. I don't care about your feelings. I don't think they're important, not to me. They're very important to you. But if you don't think they're important, why should I put it in? What are you feeling? Saturn and Scorpio saying, you have to be a lot more serious about this thing that you call physicality than you are. I don't know what you've been taught, who taught you, or why. That's not even the issue right now. The question is, what is it that you really want? Have you defined that? Emotionally, have you defined it? Because it's all about relationships. The path that we're going through now is focused on relationships. And the biggest relationship you have is with yourself. Some people say it with God, but you don't know what He is. So I'm going to start with you. What is your relationship with yourself? And this is where the Aquarian energy comes in because it's thinking, but it's thinking on a lower level, believe it or not, even when it's out the box. It's on a lower level because it hasn't had the spiritual experience. Remember, it's the moon. The moon is the lower side of the sun, if you will. It hasn't been exposed to that sunlight, that good experience, the goodness and the wellness of what health really is. And so it can only speculate on things. It can only ask questions. You can only ask questions. But you have to ask those hard questions. You don't have to wait for some crazy person like me to come along and push you. You have to ask the questions. A lot of times, I like to watch a lot of movies. I watched this movie the other day called Diversity. I don't know how many of you have seen it. But one of the first things that the people had to do, everybody was sectioned off. You could almost make it in temperaments. There were people who were fighters. There were people who were really smart. There were people who like to help people with their feelings. There were people who were practical. There had been a big war, and most of the world had been wiped out. This one city had survived, and they put up a wall to protect themselves. And then they made these dividing groups so everybody could get along. And in your life, when you came of age, you had to pick which group you wanted to be in. They gave you a test just before that, though, to let you give you a hint. These are things where you have talents. This movie is pretty much paralleling how we live today, even though we haven't set it up consciously in the physical science way. Your temperament puts you in a certain perspective to what's going on in life. There are things that you see that other people don't. There are things that you experience and feel that other people never think of. And through the exchange in the relationship, that's how we grow. That's how this city survives. So when you become of age and call it initiation, you get to pick which group you're going to be. They give you a test. They shoot you with a drug. And then they measure what's going on in your mind. And then according to that test, they tell you these are your attributes. When you go there, that was your choice. But remember, whenever you make a choice, you can't change it. You're stuck with this for the rest of your life. So this is the Saturn thing. At this time it's in Scorpio. Scorpio is about sex. Some people think that Taurus is about sex. Let's look at that. Spring signs. First one is Aries, dealing with the head chakra. Then comes the throat chakra, ruled by Taurus, Venus. What does the voice have to do with sex? If you're coming from the other direction, coming from the root chakra, where Scorpio is, that's where your genitals are. That's the more sexual thing, at least on the physical plane. And the physical is a copy of the spiritual. Even if you can't see it, you can experience it. And so we see in the seasons, in the spring we have Aries and Taurus. In the fall we have Libra and Scorpio. It's an interesting juxtaposition because in the fall, Venus comes first, Scorpio comes second. In the spring, Mars comes first, Venus comes second. So what's going on here? You can see it if you put it in an age factor. You would think that the older souls are the ones that are born in the autumn. That's the older part of the year. And those people are more social. The ones in the beginning, in the springtime, they're pretty spontaneous. They do a lot of things. Now, if you drop those little diamonds on you, I'm going to ask you to be very flexible with your thinking and keep up with me, but I go all over the place. And I know you have the capacity to do it, even if you don't usually do it. You may be out of practice, but when you come up here, I'm talking to who you really are, not who you think you are. So, as we continue back to the movie, they give you this drug and it gives you some visual scenes about who you are. So when the girl woke up, her tester said, I'm going to send you home, and you just tell your parents that you were sick, and I sent you home early. And so she said, well, what's the result of my test? She said, that's not important. You just choose what your parents are when you go through initiation, and don't tell anybody about the test results. And then she kicked her out. So she went home, her parents wanted to know, what's going on? Everybody's asking questions. And these are reflective of the questions that come to you in your life. Other people ask you questions and you think, oh, that's pretty personal, they're being nosy, but these questions are coming out of you. And because you're not that disciplined, you don't recognize this is your question. We're not going to label that. Anyway, the parents are asking questions, she's trying to be basically getting all around. So they go to the initiation, her and her brother about the same age. So when he gets up, he chooses to be one of the smart people, because he was pretty smart, even though he was very helpful also. Parents looked shocked when he didn't choose the same line that they were in. I guess anybody, parent would do, they think you're going to follow in their footsteps. We come through our parents, not from them. A lot of parents seem to get that. We had to learn some stuff because they reminded us who we were. They didn't make us who we are. That's why we picked them. We're the guiding force there. They're not guiding us. We didn't only pick them, but we picked their grandparents because they couldn't be together if they weren't together. And if you want to be imaginative, follow that line back as far as you can. And you see how much work that you've done to get to be who you are. Because you had to set up a lot of combinations of people to get to where you are, to who you are. So the little girl gets up and she goes up and she's looking at all these bowls. Which one is she going to cut her hand and put her blood in? And she picks the dauntless ones, the ones who are brave. They're like the police force or the army. They protect everybody in the city from whatever. I don't know, everything's cool, but they just seem to have a lot of fun running through the city, being bold and doing things. When she was a little kid, she used to run with them. I guess that affected her choice. The first thing they did when they left the initiate, of course, the parents are now crestfallen and crushed. Because neither one of their kids in the church and doing the way that they were. When she's going on a train, she runs with these people and they get to an L, like in Chicago. The train runs above the ground. Instead of going up the stairs, they climb up things that hold what the tracks are. And it's about 3 stories up, so it's kind of exciting. You say, wow, did you do that on First Street? It's pretty good. Then when they get there, the leader says, come on, we got to get on this train. The train doesn't stop. You have to run the side and then jump on the door. And you have about 75 yards to do it, because then you come to the end of the platform and the train is shooting. So you got to make it. The little girl just makes it. They ride about 5 minutes, and then they say, okay, we're getting off. Train's not slowing down. The leader just jumps and does a roll on the roof, and the people follow him. So the little girl does it, it's kind of bruised up, and she gets in, everybody else does it. So the leader steps up and says, okay, this is what this group's about. You chose to be with us, but now we want to choose to make sure that you have what it takes to be what we are. Because we're dauntless, we're not afraid of anything. We get to face our fears and then overcome them. And so our first test is going to be, they took them to the edge of the roof, which is about 12 stories up. And when you look down, there's another roof that has a hole in it, and it's dark in there. You can't see what's past that. I said, okay, now you got to jump. And he looks around at everybody and says, who's going to be first? And about 30 people, there ain't nobody stepping up. They said, look, you said that you wanted to be in the dauntless group. You have to learn how to be dauntless. And in line with the subject that we're talking about, if you're going to be who you really are, you're going to have to learn how to be bold. You're going to have to learn how to stand out in front. You're going to have to learn how to take the lead. Even not knowing what's coming next. That's what being dauntless and bold is about. So the little girl says, I'll be first. So she steps up, gets on the ledge, and she looks at it, and she gets off the ledge, takes off her coat. I don't know, maybe this is called a ritual or warm-up. Some of the guys start singing, strippers come in, take it all off, baby, da, da, da. These things are coming from within her. I'm reminding you. Even though it looks like it's the people around her. She got back on the ledge and jumped. Whoosh. And you see her falling in the free fall. And she goes through the hole. And they haven't let everybody catch her. So the guy down there, because it took a little while for him to make the first person to jump, he asked her, did somebody push you? And she kind of like, hey, no, I jumped in my own. So eventually everybody jumps. But every test that they do is a test that goes beyond whatever they did before. Until finally they come to the test where they give you a drug. It says, now you're going to face your greatest fear. Nobody knows what that is but you, but the tester will get to see how you relate to it. So this little girl, they shot her with a drug, and when she woke up, she was out in the field someplace. And there was a dog. It looked like kind of a wild dog, wild German Shepherd. And he was growling, and he was walking towards her. And she was backing up. But then she started running. And as she was running, she saw a little girl running in front of her. And this is kind of like what we're doing today, talking about space and time overlapping one another. The little girl was her, running from this dog. The dog went right past her and is going after this child. So now she's running faster and she jumps on the dog. And when she lands on it, it turns into a puppy. And she looks at it and it's kind of like, woo. And then all of a sudden it turns into a dog again. To this wild dog that's growling at us right next to her. She says to herself, this ain't real. And then she woke up back in the room. Her justice said, how did you make it so fast? And nobody, the darkness people don't get through this test like that. She said, I don't know how to test that. The next time she went in, she was afraid of birds, blackbirds, and they were flying on her and stuff. And she ran away, and she ran into this cubicle that then turned into a lockdown and started filling up with water. I imagine it had to do something with feelings that we're talking about now. Everybody has them, everybody experiences them. Very few people control them very well. When I say control, I'm talking about management, I'm not talking about suppression. Find a way to use them. But as the container was filling up with water, she looked around and she saw some of the friends that were in her initiation group, and they were just watching. And as the water came up through the chin, she saw a small crack in the glass. She said, this ain't real. And she just rubbed it. Boom! Opened right up, and the water flowed out. She woke up back in the room. The guy said, how did you break that glass so fast? She said, I don't know, I just broke it. He said, nobody breaks the glass. As the movie goes on, he tells her they become fast friends, and he tells her that she has to learn, because he knows who she is now. You have to learn to be a Thomas person, because that's why you joined the group. He said, whatever you're doing, I don't know. I don't understand. He said that if they find out who you are, they're going to kill you. He said, so you have to learn the ways of the darkness people and figure out a way to overcome your fear, because you're not facing your fears. You have some capacity to take you past them, but you're not facing them. And this is what the taskmaster is reminding us with our feelings. We all have them. You know, when I was younger, I was pretty much like her. I just been past my feelings. I said, I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with this. As I got older, I started running into blocks. I didn't know what they were. In my search, because I'm reflective, I started seeing this has something to do with my feelings. This is not good. It's coming to me, and that's when I took up this study of astrology, seek to overlap with that, and I started understanding I have to start feeling my feelings. That's not going to be, it's not my primary object. I said, but if this is the way I have to go, this is the way I have to go. This is where you have to come to. It's just like being in a darkness group. Once you choose to be there, you have to do the things the group does, whether you like it or not, no matter how it feels or not. They started matching people to fight. The guy who was one of the other leaders, he didn't pretty much like this girl. And so I'm seeing this as a reflection of us. We don't like ourselves. Some part of ourselves we're not comfortable with, and we just don't pay attention to it. If we get the chance, we'll diss it. So he matched her up with this big chick. We said, you two fight. Chick kicked her butt. Kicked her butt so bad that it knocked her out. And the guy told her that she was out of the group. He said, you're not strong enough to be in this group, you're out. Train started leaving. She was in the hospital when she woke up. I asked her friends how long she'd been there. They said, a day. She said, a day. So they said, we got to go because they had one of those jackets and they passed the first initiation. And so the train is leaving. And as it's pulling out the station, you see her coming out the door running after her. And she runs and runs and runs. And the first guy that gave her the test saw her and he helped her run the train. The guy that kicked her out the group said, what are you doing here? You don't belong. She said, I do belong. She said, you can't kick me out. I have to tell myself that I'm not good enough. First time she ever stood up for herself. He just shook his head, went back to the front of the train, and right. These are lessons for us. Even when you don't know who you are, there are times where you have to take a stand and define yourself against something that's intimidating and you, in your mind, stronger than what you are. This is what Scorpio is. Scorpio goes deep, 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 deeper. It's the bottomless abyss. Even Scorpios don't want to get to the bottom. This is deep enough. I don't have to go any further. But if you're on a spiritual journey, you have to do the whole walk, just like this little girl's going through this daughter's group, finding out who she is. She developed a little crew of friends because they had a testing group that showed you where you were. Below the line, everybody below the line is going to get kicked out, everybody above the line is going to pass. So she was in the very last place. And the guy that didn't like her, he said, he picked the best fighter. He picked the guy to fight her. Her friend came along and said, this guy, when he's fighting, every time he takes a step before he hits you. He said, you're fast. He said, don't wait for him to attack. Go straight for his throat, knock him out, take him out. So she gets in the ring with the guy, but she still has something about hurting other people. She comes from helping everybody. Can't get along. So this guy said, I was kicking her butt. She dodges and dips for a little while, then pretty much knocks her out again. Just as she's going out, she sees a friend walking away. She had the information of what to do. We have the information of what to do. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter the reason. We don't listen to it. We don't do it. Saturn's a taskmaster. We're not playing. And say you have a choice to make. And this is the thing about the Aquarian moon. You always have a choice. Even on the lower level, you have a choice. Do you want to step up? Yes or no? If not, let me think about this. Give me a minute. You have to do it now. Time and space is always in the moment. It's not a linear thing. You're on a path, a spiritual path, and you don't know what's coming next. This is the part of you that comes through the moon, that comes to Earth. It has limitations. If you want to get to the part of you that comes from the sun, that's spiritual, it has no limitation, it has all the information. There are things that you have to do. It's part of being dauntless. The first thing, you have to be dauntless. You have to be brave. You have to overcome whatever fear you have, because all of us have it. Even if we don't share it with our closest friend, with our mates, we still have a fear that we don't face. We look for ways to get around it. We look for people to help us. It's good if you have people there to help you, but if it's something that you have to do, it only makes you weak. Because you're not doing your thing. This is your thing. You're the one asking the questions, you're the one making the decision, not somebody else. All the time. They had a group competition. Her friend picked her first. The other leader said, oh, you're picking somebody weak, so you had an excuse when you lose. God said, whatever. They formed the teams, and the first thing she did when they split up, she looked for the tallest place. So he asked her, what was she doing? She said, I'm going to go get a vantage point to see if I can find the thing that we're looking for from a high point. He said, that's a good idea. So now he's following her. She's climbing up this tower. This tower is one of those real tall towers. Almost look like that thing in Seattle. And they got about halfway up. The guy said, this is high enough, isn't it? She said, what are you talking about? And then when she turned around and looked at him, she said, you're afraid of heights. She said, amazing. He said, everybody got to be afraid of something. She said, whatever. She kept climbing. She went all the way to the top. Shane, now he's the lower part of her. He used to be the higher part of her. This is how your life goes. Things keep shifting around. And you have to be flexible, just like I mentioned. You be flexible here, following stories that are going from one place to another. And she saw the goal that they had to get. She said, there it is over there. So they went back down, made a plan on how to get there. Long story short, they got it. And they got the goal. The other leader was totally pissed. But remember, everything in this movie, everything in your life is part of you. It's a reflection of you that you're not aware of. So you're still antagonistic to yourself, even though you've been victorious, even though you've overcome a lot of things and obstacles. There's still a way for you to go. There's still things for you to learn. So you can't stop now just because you're strong and you know something. Next to what there is to know, you don't know anything. And if you don't know that, just keep walking. Your life will bring it to you. Because that's what your spirit does. It wants to transform all these limitations that you set for yourself. But in order to transform it, you have to experience it. Some of the ways that you dodged enough in other lifetimes set up these congestions. Some of the things that you did were not very nice to other people. And when you went into the spirit world after your death, so-called death, all those things got left at a threshold because they can't exist in the sun environment. They can't exist in the spiritual environment. The vibration is too low. And so that part of you that was sunlight goes on to the spirit world, sets up the plan for the next life, and when it comes back, it has to pick up those things it set down. All those things that you didn't finish, all those things that you didn't complete, everything that you failed at. Everybody in here has failed at something in their life. And when you come through that threshold right there, this doorway, you're saying, I'm ready to harmonize all of that. I don't even know what it is. I don't remember. I'm ready to harmonize it all. The reader says, are you sure? I have a school for this. And nobody recognizes it when they first come because they think it's just like any other school. Every other school, you learn some things, read some books, have some conversations. But as you're going through the class, things start happening in your life that won't happen for a long time if you don't take this class. If you take this class, things start speeding up because you're telling the spirit world, your soul nature, I'm ready to advance. Let's stop dragging our feet. Let's stop doing it. So some of the stuff gets really challenging because the things that you're going to meet first are your fears. Whether you knew you had them or not, they're going to start showing up and saying, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not good at this part. Why didn't somebody tell me? I said, if they had told you before, would that make a difference? Yeah, it would have made a difference, then you don't belong here anyway. So just pack it in. Now you can stop Because like I said, in this world you always have a choice to say yes or no. When I'm doing the forums, I'm asking you to say yes to everything. You say yes to everything. But no. Yes to everything. I don't even know what it might be. Can you give me a hint? That's not part of the curriculum. You have to have the experience. You're going to have the experience anyway. You know, a lot of the illnesses that people have, this radiation comes from this body up through your head. They don't understand what they are. Physical science doesn't understand that. They're good at giving them names, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, whatever, Alzheimer's, all that stuff. But these are just congestions that you have left undone from lifetimes. And it's about time to do something about this. If you follow the world's path, go to the regular doctor and he wants to cut you or give you a drug or medication. He says, this will help you be better. And you don't ask any questions. Because if you ask questions, he has to listen to you. That's his job. It's also his job to talk you into going the way he wants you to go. Choice. You still have a choice. It's interesting to watch a person who's chronically ill. Just watch their development or demise because they have a choice to go either way. And I have a sister that's going through cancer. And when she first went there, I could tell she was afraid. And even when they were giving her tests, they said, well, you got high blood pressure. Let us give you this medication. She said, I don't have high blood pressure. They said, well, this little machine right here says so. She said, I don't care what the machine says. I don't have it. I'm not taking your medication. Now, this is interesting, because I'm liking this. You know, she's in the family. This is what we do. I don't understand why she's in the hospital, though, but I said, okay, this is your life. I can't dictate to you how you're going to walk. They suggested she take chemo. I said, I don't know if that's a good idea, Lisa. She says, well, I don't know what to do. I said, we do have to decide what to do. I said, they have a job, they got to make money. I said, they're not about saving you. I said, even if the chemo works, and if it works, it won't be the chemo, it'll be you. She took the chemo anyway. She took it for, I don't know how many sessions she had, but after a few, she said, that's too much. And she stopped. She made the choice. She's becoming more conscious. They asked her why she won't stop. She said, I've been working with y'all for these many months, and I haven't seen any change. I said, you don't owe them any explanation. I said, but you're a nice person, so that's cool. So now they have a nurse that comes to the house, you know, to monitor things and ask her questions. And I'm seeing her change degree by degree. It's like, this is a slow process. I'm on the outside. I can't tell what's going on. I have conversations, and we have a lot of tension, some stress, because I'm coming from a spiritual science point of view. She's coming from Christian science, which I think is just a transformed material science thing. But I finally found out that it wasn't about that. Everybody has their own view and perspective, and everybody gets to make their own choices. I'm meeting myself in her. I've done certain things that I haven't fallen prey to the illness, to the physical illness. But there's still parts of me that are out of line because I'm arguing with myself. I said, I can stop that. I know how to stop that. No more conversations about Christian science versus spiritual science. I know what I know, she knows what she knows. She's going to live according to that or not. I'm going to live according to mine. I know. She has a lot of pain. Sometimes her pain is so great it hurts me. But this is how close we are to people, not just in our blood family, but people that we care about. What can we do about that pain? There's not a technique for pain. You have to experience it. When you experience it, you have to experience all of it. Because if you look away, if you try to get around it, it'll follow you. If you ever had a cramp, you know what it's like. All you can think about is that cramp. And it doesn't get any better. I had an experience with my niece passed from cancer also. And she asked me the day before she died, she said, David, Uncle David, can you tell me about this pain? Why do I have this pain? I said, because you choose not to experience it. She said, well, what do I have to do to experience it? I said, you have to go into it. Tell me. She said, well, would you assist me? I said, I'd love to. So I do what we do here. I ran the energy, got in a relaxed state, and took her on an image-guided meditation into her pain. At the end of it, when she came back to this level of consciousness, she had a smile on her face. I said, that's my niece, she understands. And it helped me understand that illness is not what we think it is. It's just something for us to go through, something that's on the journey to experience and find out who we really are. I still have sessions with my niece. That's how close we are. That's how close that world is to us. When you choose to accept it. It's all about choice. Getting back to that beginning, the Aquarian moon, it's put you in a position. Everybody's now feeling, because these are signs of the times, that something's changing, and I just can't put my finger on what it is. It's not making me feel very comfortable. I can give you a tip as far as the energy goes. For the past year, we've been living through a cardinal cross in the cardinal signs. And it keeps you real busy. It's got to do this, and that, change, that. Gotta start. The cross is now changing over to a fixed cross. The fixed cross is just what it sounds like. It's fixed. You're between a rock and a hard place. You got to slow down. You can't go fast anymore. There's time to consider all those things that you started. Where did you start? You know where you started. Venus is in Cancer right now, at the time of this full moon. Cancer is about tradition, it's about feelings, feeling good. Whatever makes me feel good, that's what I want more of. Nothing wrong with that. The question is, are there things that make you feel good that aren't good for you? I don't know. You have to look. You have to find that experience yourself. Because if it's not good for you and you're holding on to it, there are going to be consequences. You're going to start that taskmaster sending the radiation up to your head saying something ain't right. I wonder what it could be. You chose to say no thank you. That old devil I was telling you about, who isn't what you think he is, he says, you got to come through here. You're going to come through kicking and screaming, or you're going to come through on your own. You're going to come across this threshold, one way or the other. It's your choice. You have the sun part of you. The challenge is the sun part of you, after age 27, you pretty much stop supporting. You have to consciously take it in hand yourself. And say, I'm going to start educating myself, because I don't know enough to get the rest of this journey. I know that I went to school, and even if I have letters after my name, they taught me certain things. And even if I got every bit of what they taught me, at best it's only 50%, because they don't deal with anything that I can't see. And I know I'm going to run into some things that I can't see, because it's happening all the time. All the time. The degree that Saturn's on our taskmaster, what is your task at this time with your feelings, with your emotions, to have you mired in that deep abyss? The symbol is a woman giving birth to a divine child. And this woman is you, whether you're male or female. The divine child is you. Slip back to the movie. The young lady found out later on that her mother used to be a nurse. And she had just infiltrated into helping people because she wanted to help people. But when she saw her daughter in trouble, she came out of that facade that she was living in, stood up for who she was, and started decimating the people that were threatening her daughter. The caveat is that in the process, the mother got killed. When she went to where the father was, and he asked about her, she relayed the information along. He took the lead from that point. He got killed. Metaphysically, I'm just sharing you, dropping these little tips to you. That is the old way that we used to do things. We followed our mother and our father, even though we guided them. When we don't know any better, when we refuse to choose to look at the truth, those things that aren't real are going to be taken away. No matter what position they have in our life, how high we put them up, they will be taken away because they're not real. They're part of the transitory world. We all live in a transitory world. You just have to discern what's real and what's not. Just like that little girl did as she's going on her journey. You have to discern. You have to make the choice. It's always back to you. It never went away from you. You were the one that was running away, remember? Oh yeah, I got it now. Yes, you do have a divine right. You have spiritual powers, but you can't use them. You're not bold enough. You're not strong enough. You're backing off of things. You're backing off of situations that are challenging to you. I can't do that because I got lots of reasons. And the reasons are good. They're valid in this world. And if you claim this is only the place that you come from, then you're stuck. And there will be consequences for you being stuck. Because life is moving all the time. Things are slowing down in this fixed cross. And that last Venus being in Cancer, I'm looking at the relationship of Venus to Mars, because that's what people think about sexuality. And that's what we're going to touch on now. That's the male and the female force. You know, in the springtime, it just like operates automatically. You don't have to think, this feels good, I'm attracted to it. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. They put this girl on, after she passed her last initiation, they said, you got a shortcut back home. I guess you can line that with spiritual awareness. So they put her in this harness, and it shot across the city about 3 miles. But it was at an incline, so as you were going faster and faster, we're going past things. And when you get to the end, you have to pull the brake, or you're going to crash right into the wall. And you can imagine you're going at pretty high speed. So when she starts getting close to the wall, she's having such a good time. Her friends are shouting at her, pull the brake, pull the brake. So of course she starts reaching back and she can't get a hand on it. And this is the place that we find ourselves in a lot of time. Yeah, we have instruction. Yeah, we have information. But if you don't stay focused on what you're doing, you don't put yourself in a compromising position. So we know this is just a movie, so she lasts through that part. But a lot of people in life, they don't. You know, they don't pull the brake. They don't even remember there was a brake to pull. People, smart people, we have them in the world today. We have think tanks that are always thinking about us. They program what we're going to do next. They watch us. They've been watching us for centuries. They like this. We set this up for them. It's going to get them every time. And we fall for it. And we've been falling for it for hundreds of years. And it's okay if that's what you like. It makes you feel good. It's all right. But you have a choice. You always have a choice. That's what we're sharing with you here today. To make the choice, you have to want to improve. You have to want to raise your consciousness, because the consciousness of the planet is raising anyway. Mm-hmm. These smart people finally decided that the governors weren't very good because there were too many divergents showing up, people that they couldn't control. So when they found them, they were used to kill them. And they said the easiest thing to do would be to get rid of these people who are letting this stuff happen. And then we'll take over, we'll start governing because we understand what things are. There are physical scientists of today that make all these viruses, how to control people. They run a lot of tests. They say, see what they'll do when you do this. The little girl and her friend find out about it. So they set about to stop it. They made the choice to say, yes, this can't keep going on. We're going to stay in the way. Those people are pretty smart. They're just like our scientists. They got a program that they put it, downloaded into all these dauntless people to make them unconscious. Just to follow the input that they get told what to do. Go here, go there, do this, do that. Pull the trigger, end the story. So now they got an army of dauntless people that don't know what they're doing. And you're right, tell them. The male and the female split apart. They get split apart, they get caught. The lady that's the head of the blind people, she said, she's not important, just take her off the killer. That's when the mother came and got her daughter out after she got separated. They took the guy. They said, we need him, because we need to get some information from him. So after the little girl got away from her mother, after her mother was killed, she came back looking for the guy, and she saw him sitting in a chair. He wasn't tied down, just sitting there like a zombie. And she goes over to him and she starts telling him, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. He doesn't do anything. Just so happens that the head lady, she happens to be blind, she comes in and says, he can't hear you. He said, isn't it interesting? With a couple of chemicals, we can just wipe everything. He don't know who he is, he doesn't know what to do with that side chemical. That's what she said, right now, I'm going to finish you off. And this guy, he's the best fighter they ever had. Even though she's stronger, she's not a match for him. So he's throwing her all over the room. And he happened to throw it first to a gun, so she picked it up and pointed at him. He kept coming at her. And she had to make a decision. And these are the decisions you have to make. And the decisions are really about life and death. What are you going to choose? And when you choose, what is it that you're choosing? You think you're choosing life. You think you're choosing death, but do you know? So she's telling this guy, she's pleading with him, it's me, it's me. He can't hear her. So she takes the gun and points it to her own head. And he was reaching down when he saw the gun pointed to her head, he grabbed the gun. And he stopped. And everybody in the movie stopped. Like, this is a transition point. Which way will it go? He remembered who he was, even with all those chemicals in his body. And this is what we're suggesting to you, that when you reach that transition point and you have been choosing consciously, anything on the lower plane doesn't have control of you. It doesn't get into the spirit plane, remember? From the beginning, it never was, all this physical stuff never was there. So it has no control over who you are. You have control over everything. Will you remember that?
Yes.
You all want to say yes. The situation comes. And it's all good. It's all a process. You're not going to get it on the first time. You're not going to get it on the second time. You know, the people that you see getting it on the first or second time, they've been here a few times. Rita's been here many, many, many times. She's what you call an old soul. She recognizes things, but she's still on the journey. There's still some other things she hasn't recognized. And it's all good because you're going to help her realize that. That's why you become part of our community. That's why you're here today, for us to share. Now, the thing about astrology is that in the time and space continuum, sometimes we say we take a day for a year. And so the aspect of Venus to Mars, male to female, and remember that in the movie that the male and the female got split apart. And so there, you are whole within yourself, and you have the male and the female in yourself. So when you see your partner being taken away, your partner is still with you. But you have to realize that. You have to be conscious of the connection that you have. You have to make the choices based on your consciousness, not based on your fears. Because your fears are going to block out everything. They're going to make stuff dark. That's what being unconscious is about. You can't see. Not seeing in the dark is not the same thing as spirit being invisible. Because in the dark, your heart can see everything. How many of us are connected with the heart? And this is the challenge for Aquarius. That's what this full moon is about. The heart is there, and you're consciously making choices, but you're still making choices on a lower level. You have to make the connection. You say, how do I do it? What do I do? You say, you think there's a technique? You already lost. You're following the dictates that you've been taught in those old schools, those physical science schools. Put this with that, and you always get this. But remember, they don't look at the spiritual part aspect of anything. So whatever they taught you is not going to help if you lean on that. This is why we say you don't have to come to our school, but you do have to find a way to raise your consciousness. Yes. And this is what we are inspiring you and encouraging you to do. You know, before I came to the school, I was studying about 30, 40 years. And I came up here to see, well, let me compare what I know with other people. That was my grandma coming up. And I'm glad I came, because I found out a whole lot more than I was looking for. I found a real community like I've never felt. My family is really, really, really tight. But this family is amazing. And as I told you, I can have discussions with my sister, but they get stress-filled. I have challenging discussions up here, but I'm not stressed about it. So I'm still growing and learning, and I want you to do the same thing. The light of the moon is actually the light of the sun. So the experiences that you have can be transformed. It all depends on you choosing. Remember, the devil's there to help you. He's going to challenge you with everything that you're afraid of and everything that you don't want to do. And every time you say no to it, he'll have you by the throat. And he can direct you wherever he wants. You'll be subject to chemicals and viruses and whatever else they put out there. When you get into your spiritual consciousness, and listen carefully as I say, when you get into it, not if you get into it. When you get into it, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole new world. You can't even imagine the wonders that you're going to behold. Anytime you think anything negative, anytime you think somebody's stronger than you, anytime you think your path is blocked and you can't get by it, you are living in your lower consciousness. You're not recognizing who you really are. Your sun sign is your first clue to where a lot of your powers lead. You have to access those powers consciously. You have to find a way to do it. You can talk to people like us, and we can give you clues, or you can go look in yourself. It's cool. Because when you look, when you seek something, you find it. When you really want something, you get it. Back to the symbol of this full moon is saying you have to use everything you got. You can't hold anything back. Like I might need this energy for tomorrow. Won't be it tomorrow. You got to use every bit of it now because it's limitless. There's nothing like your lower thinking. This is what Aquarius is beginning to tell people, come outside the box. But when you get outside the box, you need to get outside of that box. And find out that when you're all the way out, boxes don't exist. This is who you are. This is who we're encouraging you to be. And one little thing about the section I was telling you about, the aspect that's in force right now started in April 2013. And it started in Aries, this interesting thing. Right now, Uranus is right on that point. Uranus symbolizes who you really are when you're out of the box. And people who, when you start acting like that, they say, you crazy. You say, I don't know what's wrong with you. They may have to go get a straight back. If you really show up like that, which takes us back to the movie when the lady told little girls, don't tell people. They're not ready to hear that. They haven't prepared themselves to receive how different you are. They're afraid of you. And they don't even know who you are. They don't know what you're about. They just know that whatever you're about scares the heck out of them. So you're going to have to keep it on down low for a little while until you get strong in it. You can't go out there and So this aspect is now getting ready. Venus is getting ready to leave Cancer. So all those old feelings that people have that made them feel good, they're going away. It's time for you to throw your party clothes. Get ready to get on stage and act out who you really are in your sun sign, in your wholeness, in your greatness, in your fullness. That's what's going to be asked of you, to step up and be who you are, no matter who's there. Not a couple of days. But sometimes time works to get us to remember, even though we have forever, we don't have forever. We have to do it right now. It's being asked of you to step up right now. The square that it's going to come in contact with, lo and behold, is going to be in Scorpio. Mars is in Scorpio. Mars loves to be in Scorpio because it said, this is my home. I'm in a briar patch. I can do anything I want. I can feel anything I want. Venus passing over to Leo is going to cause a square. There's going to be some obstacles to you expressing who you are. Those obstacles are going to come from the shadows of whatever you're afraid of. We're just dropping these little pennies and dimes for you to remember. Because it's going to be up to you to remember. I'm not going to be there. The rest of these people aren't going to be there when it happens. You're going to have to remember for yourself. But remember, anything that comes is you. Is your creation. You're creating a work of art. You may not be walking the way other people say, you're not supposed to do it that way, you're supposed to do it this way. You know who you are, you know what you have to do. You have to be strong in that. Sex is a mature thing. When you do it from the springtime level, you're not really participating. You're a participant, but you're not participating. It's more like the sperm and the ovum are participating. And that's not indiscriminate sex. That's more like just raw animal sex. And there's nothing wrong with it except you're a human being. And so let's not step back to that. It's a process that all of us go through. Most of us have been through. How are we using that force? The Aquarian moon is asking you, are you using this the best way that you can? And that question is, remember, it's coming out of your heart. It's not coming from the outside. It's coming from the inside. If you're not using it the best way that you can, understand there will be consequences. And the consequences aren't something that you can't deal with. And if that's what you want to do, it's okay. But that energy can be used on a higher level. And when you let your values go first, before the act, because that's what the autumn is about, Libra comes first, the relationship is primary, the action is secondary, it follows. And in following, it supports. Whereas in the springtime, it's just the opposite. Values follow, you find out the values afterwards, and then you say, I got damage control. Okay. This is how life rolls. This is how we learn. This is us all growing. It's all good. There's nothing that you can do that's going to put you out of alignment with yourself forever, unless you choose to stay there. You're not that strong, so don't worry about that. Cool. So it's your choice to get in alignment when you want to. It's not going to happen in the moment, though. You've done a lot of things that you don't know about that are going to be stumbling stones. It's going to be stumbling blocks to you to come to awareness. But the tougher your road gets, the closer it is to saying that you are to being who you are. Please keep walking. It's not time to sit and rest. Choices. You have to make the first choice on the lower level. That's a given. And that will start you coming out of the box, because you cross the threshold and you're going to meet some things. You're going to meet some intelligences that you didn't even know existed. Yeah, you heard about them. The readers talked about them as angels. You might see them as angels. It doesn't matter. You're going to meet them. You'll see. And you'll say, I don't know if I'm ready for this. It's too late now. Any knowledge that you get changes you. That's a good thing. Don't run away from that, because that's who you are. We want to support and encourage us all the time. The moon in Aquarius is following this new moon that was in Leo that said, step up and be who you are. Now it's coming to fruition. We're saying when you find out who you are isn't who you thought you were, you got work to do. Peace be with you all. Ashe.
Wow.
When you open the floor, because I said in the email that you could talk about the part that sensuality, physicality plays in spiritual growth. So I didn't get deep into that, but we touched on it, so the door is open if you don't want to talk about that. Or you want to talk about anything else.
Or we can do our meditation.
Yeah.
No, really, Spirit said, y'all got questions. So we're not doing meditation. There was a reason why I didn't put the bowl out or anything. Because Spirit knew what you were going to do. So you got questions, give it to them.
And the questions are your questions for you.
Don't be scared.
No. I like that. Even with the doctors, people say, who want to go first?
Right.
Everybody says, not me.
You know me, I go first.
Go ahead. Jump!
No, I understand. Like when I first came back, you know, I've been here since '89. When I first came back, I told the reader and I told David, I said, I'm ready. They said, you sure you're ready? And then David told me some things, you know. And then I was like, yeah, okay. But then I started talking to the reader. And the reader said, you same thing David said. He said, you sure you're ready? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. But a lot of us don't understand because we get so caught up in the spiritual part of it, we really don't recognize the physical things that they're talking about that happen. So when I told the reader that I was ready, I think maybe like a week later, it wasn't even a week later, where I was in an incident where something physically happened. Where somebody, like I said, I used it like last week and I use it again if people really don't understand what is going on. Physically happened, somebody called themselves trying to rob me. But that was when they said, was I ready? But I knew what they meant when they say physical things. I don't want people to think they keep thinking some spiritual things won't happen. They're actually talking about physical things. Physical things are going to happen. So when that physically happened, a lot of people know the area that I'm from. I'm from Northeast. I'm from one of the worst neighborhoods in the whole city, if you want to know. what I'm saying, when that physically happened, a lot of people that people knew that were cold-blooded, that would do anything. I mean, the whole neighborhood surrounded me and like they was ready to go. And at that point, I realized who I was. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what he's talking about. You're going to realize who you are. You're going to realize the control that you have, and then it's up to you to harness that and figure out what you want to do with it. That's just basically what he's trying to say. But
So
everything physically. Go ahead.
What actually happened? When you realized who you were at that moment?
Oh, what that meant, when that physically, when that happened, that made me realize that I knew I had to do some changes. It made me realize that I know I had to, like he's saying, actually step up and become who I say I am. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of things like, because like I said, I couldn't even express it, even share with everybody, even like he was talking about, like he said, stepping up. I mean, like, even when I was smoking marijuana. But when he said, you got to step up meaning something that you thought that was good for you, that you realized, that you got to understand and realize that they're not. That's when you have to step up and make those changes. So it's always reverting back to you and making the right choices. Everything will always come back to you. And it's up to you to make the right choices. If you say, like he said, if you say you conscious, if you say you want to step it up, you have to make the decisions. It still goes back to you. But however it come all the way around, it's going to end up all the way back to you making the decision.
Okay, so you said that in the area you were, where you were being wrong, everybody was surrounding you. How did you get out of it? How did you survive that?
I mean, because it was things that was, like you say, the universe put things in play. Everything was in play. It's just, like you say, you got the fear. The fear won't let you see, you know what I mean, what's going on. But people come to fear. People come to my aid. Right. You see what I'm saying? So once, like you're saying, once you get out of the fear, you gotta actually see it. Because that's like I was telling people about the movie Lucy. When she stabbed him in his hands, he basically was saying that you can't understand what's going on, what I'm trying to tell you, because you're in pain. Sometimes we allow the pain and the fear for us not to understand why certain things are happening. So we get the pain and the fear out the way, then we can understand things a whole lot better. So when you were in that deep moment of fear, your spiritual awakening came in? Is that what you're saying? Okay. So you found the physical and you trusted the spiritual. Is that what you're saying? It's all the same. It's physical, spiritual.
It's no separation. And that's what we usually think. We think that because I'm having a life and my boss doesn't like me, that's that life. And my spiritual life is over here when I'm meditating and everything. Heck no, that shit is the same. It's no different. You brought that boss into your life to give you that experience that you needed to try to wake you up. And we do it on all the levels, through our sexuality, through our happiness, our sadness. You know, women don't like me, men don't like me, I can't do it. All of those are things that you brought to your life to teach you this.
So you have to overcome emotional disturbances.
Yes. And that's why we say that there is no, every situation just is. It's ISIS. It is. It's just a situation. It just is. We name it. We say, well, she's a nice person. She's not a nice person. She's a nice person. He's a nice person. We name it. If you stop naming and just experience whatever it is, it's there for you. It's just an experience. Yeah. Okay, so you telling me that I'm ugly. Okay, I agree. What else? You know what I'm saying? But we get attitudes. We don't want to be. You don't want to be with me. Okay, that's fine. You don't want to be with me? You gotta be with me. Why? We done had this relationship for so long, and you want to leave me now? Yeah. Okay. You know, but we fight it. We have to experience and just go through whatever we experience.
Yeah. But if you go to nature, nature always has disturbances. There's always chaos, and sometimes there'll be a lot of chaos order and this week disrupting space. But once that occurs and that they're past, then you go back, make you be in the natural state. They're always changing.
So based on what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that in order for you to really recognize that spiritual peace, you had to go through some confrontational.
That's what we don't want to go through. That's what it sounds like. None of us want to go through confrontation.
Right.
That's basically what everybody's saying right here. He just said it. He was saying about you might have to hurt somebody, but you have this Christian mentality that, oh, I shouldn't do.
But you gotta do.
But you gotta do. See, we're not trying to, that's the part we're not trying to hear or face. We have to do. You know what I'm saying?
Because we all want everybody to like. That's like me. I want everybody to like me.
I want everybody to like him.
So don't pay your money, and then we're gonna get thrown out tomorrow. Instead of me saying, look, you gotta get it.
Well, I'm kind of at that point where everything is in place, and I'm just bouncing all around it, okay? Because I'm not trying to accept the fact that I am the one that has to get this done.
Right.
You know, I'm telling people, look, I can't fight for y'all. Y'all have to fight with me, right? And I did that a second time, and you know what it is the second time? They all left me again. It's all by myself. So now I'm understanding that it's my responsibility, and I can't let those emotional issues weaken me, because as a result that has to happen, and I have to go there because everything in this is in place for me. You know, all of the powers that be that I've met, they're there, and I can't be afraid of them. I just have to go and sit in front of their face and say, look, here I am, here I am. So, so I'm kind of glad that I came here today. I knew I was supposed to come here today because I was like, okay, I know I'm reaching it. I know it's there, okay? So, like you said, am I scared? A little bit. I won't tell you. Am I ready to go there? Yes, I am. I'm still a little scared. You know, but I'm ready. I'm still scared. Okay. Look, I've been locked up. After that, okay, overnight. I'm not trying to find out why it happened. It's supposed to happen. Okay. While I was there, yeah, but while I was there, I was able to minister to some women in there. You know, that was the reason, you know. So, all right, y'all, speak up and don't be scared.
So feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, do it anyway.
I guess
knowing that you can conquer.
I guess the challenging thing for me is that when the situations are with people that are very dear and near to you, and you always tell them in very high esteem, and now you feel like spanking their hand. I'm like,
you gotta.
But it's you.
I'm not supposed to be spanking their hand.
Why not?
They were spanking my hand.
But it's you.
Yeah.
But every now and then I notice when things that vibration get tense, it'll come out. I'm like, y'all need to really be quiet. Because you get ready to get into a thing, and I'm not going to have it around me, or whatever. Then I go back and look, I'm like,
did I say that?
You said that to them? And they did.
So the only time, so what you're saying to yourself is the only time you're going to do anything unless you push up against the wall. And that's what most people want to, because then you can use that as the excuse. Well, I wouldn't say anything to push it. You see what I'm saying? So it makes you feel good. But that is our Christian thinking once again.
Right.
See, because Christianity tells you everybody's supposed to like you, supposed to do good, deny yourself and give to others. That's a bunch. Do that.
And sit there while they just slice you all up, and you know.
The first thing they tell you on the airplane, put the mask on yourself first.
Right.
Because if I'm safe, and I can reach over there and give my brother and say, here, take some of this and take it back. You know what I'm saying? But if I just give it to him, now he don't want to give it up. I'm like, I gave it to you.
But I like you, I started not to come this morning because I'm noticing on Sunday morning around 9 o'clock, I get this crazy headache. I'm like, what is going on here? And so today, I said, well, you know what? Me and the headache, but this one going down the street.
But I kept saying all week I was coming. I was coming today. I kept telling myself all week that I was coming today.
Yeah, I been telling myself that too. And the day came and like, oh, I really feel bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go there. And I feel terrible. And I was feeling terrible. I'm like, when is going to drag it over? I don't think
Okay. How do you feel now?
I
You still have a headache?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Can't stand it.
No room for it.
No room for it, yeah. And then I want to tell everybody, I got, whether you know it or not, when you fall, or like when you get hit, or something like that, you don't feel it. Once you do it, like, when you get that fear out of you, it's something, it seems like it's just something there, just,
Like, just know
I
that.
gotta be honest to you, it's just something there, it's just, you right there, just like, you don't feel it. You're like, dang, well, you ever feel me when I hit you? Oh, you hit me? You know?
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Because then I keep on getting glimpses. I keep going back and forth into it, and out of it, out of it. Boy, that was nice. Then I go back to what I call normal again. And I see it again. I'm like, man, that was good. It is nice when you, and then when you go through it, it's nothing that you imagine.
It happens. Right, right.
You know,
Imagination.
you scared yourself to death with your own imagination.
And if something happens, they say, okay, until you get it right, you're not going to sleep. Okay? You're not going to sleep. And the reason you're not sleeping is because you're not dealing with it.
Well, you told yourself you weren't going to sleep.
Okay, all right.
You know, full moons, new moons, and full moons, all about home. The moon is about home. Coming to, going from, building, making new. And the truth is that nobody in here has home unless you created it. If you haven't created it, then it's a concept that's not real. And every full moon that comes reminds you, what are you doing? What are you doing about your home? And this full moon, it even gives you an answer with the question. It says, you're moving from where you used to live. But you have to agree with it. You have to choose to agree with it. You're all moving. It's a wonderful place. There's nowhere. And everywhere at the same time. And you're being asked to experience that. Not just to imagine it, to experience it. What does that feel like? I don't know where to start. You already put in lots of this. Listen to how you talk. Listen to how you think. What are you saying to yourself that's mocking you? Those are the questions. Because when you begin saying things that encourage you, watch what happens. I mean, you have to do this again.
I want to go back to what I was commenting on last Sunday about the dark matter that's between you and I that we can't see. And once you proclaim a thing out of your mouth, it goes into that dark matter, and it like that meditation we were doing, it starts coming down like this first, and then it go back up and go back in. That's where the dark matter and the idea of thought. That's been something that's been thrilling me because I've been seeing it. I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. This kind of scary, but
So what they're saying is the universe is not biased. You know what I mean? That's why the grass grows the weeds, one of the negative, one of the positive. It's going to push out whatever you want to push out. It's going to all revert back to you again. Whatever you want to, whatever you push out nothing but negativity. Don't expect nothing but negativity to happen to you. Bottom line.
that's on all levels.
That's law.
Speaking of the weeds, I have a friend, she's doing a sermon next week, and she wants to speak on the weeds. I relayed to her a comment that in the restaurant business, when you're in the weeds, you usually have someone, a partner or somebody to help you because you get overwhelmed. Too much is going on, you're reaching out. Just that word, I'm in the weeds. Keisha, you know that, I'm sure, in the industry, it's like, okay, that means get my back. And she just had a conversation with me that reminded me that, you know, that's an automatic sort of thing. You're there to help each other. You bond, you gird each other up kind of thing, but that's not something that you think of, you know, when you're looking at a pretty lawn or whatever, you know, it's nice and great, but you want to get those weeds out of there. But they say leave the weeds in with the, you know, because you're going to pull up some that might need, you know, that to gird it up and strengthen it. It all has its place and its purpose there. And I kind of feel like, you know, that's something that, you know, we in our community are, by this kind of conversation, we're feeding off each other, we're energizing each other, we're taking it to, you know, where we're relating it to ourselves personally. But at the same time, you know, I also, like everything that everybody is saying, I have something that I could relate it to. And, you know, David said, you know, what is it that's, you know, because you're having the thought at the same time, but you're trying to be in the moment. You know, my issue or concern is that trying to be in the moment at the same time while I'm having, you know, thoughts. So from the past, that's not in the moment. So that's something that I'm.
Just tell them to stop.
Right.
Those are your children. Make your children mind. You say, stop. I'm here now. I'll get to you in a minute.
Do it. Everybody got to remember one thing. Everything starts with a thought. Everything. Before this phone was created, it was created through a thought. Everything, that chair, that dress you got on, that glasses you got on, everything we see out here was created from a thought. So everything starts with a thought.
Now being here started with the thought.
And it became one of
You're a figment of the creator's imagination. That's what he thinks one of his thoughts is.
Right.
After listening to everybody speak, I see that we're all at the edge now, and it's time to jump.
Is there a record called Jump?
Jump, yeah.
It's like,
There's an elephant over there.
There's an elephant over there, the lion over there, the tigers over there. You ready to jump?
Oh, my. But we know that lions and tigers and bears don't live in the same areas. You can jump over.
Don't be scared.
we get the meditation, and you're speaking about, like, you know, it's physical, right? You know, we have people who are spiritual or whatever, we're like up in the clouds. Then you have people who are just only looking at the physical, so they're just stuck in the matter. And it's like we need to kind of switch places, right? It's like all the spiritual people are now dealing with matters, like, you know, physical matter, and people who've been in the matter, they're starting to open up to see that it's more than just that. And for me, I know I'm making the crossover from being in the clouds to getting into the matter. And before, it was more like I was doing, as Dr. Sedley says, it's like armchair research. Now it's like I've been in the field. And it's serious too, because speaking of the weeds, like, just a lot of stuff centering around work. I just been on this tangent for some time now, maybe the past few months, where I've been calling out stuff that's not been right. And then, you know, I've been even challenged because people will say, well, you're not in authority to make those type of call these things out. So then I'm like, all right, well, you know, if this stuff was told to me, then I would just, you know, I'll say, okay, I should do it. But it's been a lot of like fear and stuff like that, because like you said, I don't want people to dislike me or whatever. But this is all kind of stuff happening. And before I called you yesterday, David, I had a manager call me and was asking me if I could pick up a shift, and she told me that right after I had left on Friday, there was a flood in the kitchen, like and then the system went down. And she was saying something about it was like 9 o'clock or whatever. So after we spoke, that got clear to me. I'm like, all right, so there's some emotional issues going on in the kitchen. And there's something dealing with communication too, because the system you couldn't read any orders in. And it happened at 9 o'clock, on Friday, which was the hour of Venus. So that's like relationships, so it's like there's issues centered around relationships and communicating and feelings. I see that everybody's saying stuff. I see that.
There was something that David brought up earlier that I wanted to comment on. He mentioned about and similar to what both of you were saying, but that multiple things can occur in the same space in a spiritual place. There was a show I was watching last night. I saw some stuff last night. Each of the shows just gave me a whole lot to think about and reflect on. But it was this lady who does this guy who does past life regressions. And he did some past life regressions on each of these people. They went back in their lives and they actually remembered certain, like the year, the family, what they were doing, looking at themselves to see who they were, what color hair they had. And he would go back and he would research and he would, see that these things actually were tangible, but that they affected who she was now in a way that it impacted, what she was encountering and, how she was responding to things. Because, that in this lifetime, all your years of wisdom and experience makes you who you are now, but taking into account who your past lives were and your lineage in that way, can also affect currently what's going on if you're able to see it. But I never knew about that show. But the guy, it was miraculous how well these people, exciting, whatever word I could use to describe it, was on point. That, folks were able to really relate to, some things that, like, if you start having certain things happen as a kid and they keep nagging you until you're an adult or whatever, that it could be, something in some of your ancient whoever's are telling you, trying to help you to get to, and that was something else that another show that came on, a woman who was helping people who had done, who had a whole bunch of experiences and spirits and spiritual episodes of various encounters. And so this was a female that was helping these people to bridge the gap between, why am I waking up and continue to smell cigarette smoke and, nobody's been smoking in this house for 20 years. And, my mom was the one that smoked for 40 years. She was in this other house and that, this house don't smoke. Well, just putting things together that, okay, my mom is here with me right now. So certain signs, symptoms, and signals are things that we're receiving that we're not paying any attention to, putting any relevation in, and, getting to the bottom of it. So anyway, that's those series of shows I watched yesterday just kind of pulled it in. And when David said, when your ancestors are here, they were here before or whatever, it just kind of related to, what I felt. Because I came from a place this morning, I was at a family member's house, and she was, acting like her mother used to act to me. And just doing some things that just made me feel like, oh, wow, kind of feel like I'm in that nest, kind of like she's like mother henning me or whatever. And then when I, got out and was on my commute here, I was like, okay, just everything just seemed to kind of line up step by step without me actually having to. I put forth some energy, but the steps like appeared each time I took a step. The next step is, it's just, yeah. I had an accident last Saturday. He spoke about, hitting, and Dave spoke about fear. And so I'm sorry, I'm going back on those things.
You sure are aware. My God.
But, I had an accident. And, I haven't had an accident in, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And consider myself an accident driver. You know, I'm always on all fours. I like driving stick shift, you know, so I can be totally aware of everything and be a part of the whole process. But, you know, I was dipping and dodging in traffic, and somebody jumped over in front of me. And I never even thought about using my freaking emergency brake, David. He told me that just now. I'm like, that's what that thing is for. Skirt, I should have used it. So now I know in hindsight what I'm saying. Because I had some concerns about what was I doing, where was I, why was I not there, why didn't I respond the way I had been responding for so long? By nature, by habit, just, you know, not having any, we may have some close calls, but, you know, what the heck was I doing? And so, you know, I actually didn't want to come on last Sunday because I'm like, I got to assess who I am and what's going on with me and why did that happen and where was I really at and what was going on and what was I supposed to be doing and why wasn't I doing it and all those wonderful things.
Right.
You got it. That's what we've been trying to tell you. You got it. You got it. You know, you got it.
That was a fear of mine.
Yes.
And I had to face that because I was like, you know, when I would hear on the commercial, you know, on those accident, Allstate, whoever it is, commercials, they actually let you hear the impact of the car. I would immediately turn it because I'm like, I don't want to hear that because I don't want that in my psyche. I don't want that in my forefront or my back front. Whatever. I don't want to think about it. I'm a good driver, you know. And it doesn't even matter all the time if that's supposed to happen because I got a brand new car. Out of that scenario, out of that process, I got some money coming to me, and it's not like I really want. I'm telling you all this to tell you all this, but I'm telling you, I'm in this class, you know, and I'm really starting to be a lot more tangible in my thoughts, in particular in my production and usage of my energy. You know, where I focus, where I look, what I think about, how much I, you know, gird myself up versus breaking myself down, you know, versus paying attention to what everybody else is doing and really focusing on what's going on with me. Because that's really why they're there in the first place. Because of something that's going on with me. So if I know what's going on with me, then I can figure out why they're there.
That's what your friends came around me for, because of that what she's saying. Because when I knew who I was in another lifetime. In my old lifetime, those people would have been there. In my old lifetime, he'd be dead right now. Because who I was in the past, he'd be dead. But this lifetime, that's not for me. I'm here for a whole different reason. So those people came as the fist make, like what she said.
So you will repeat.
Right.
Okay. So you was a murderer?
Pretty much.
Me too.
That was a
yeah.
And
Pretty
thought
much.
nothing
Ain't
about
thought nothing about it.
I
Ain't thought nothing about you.
you.
Ain't care nothing about you. Yeah. Not people. You did too.
I was the first
Hey,
female
most
wrestler
people-
in PG County. In 8th grade, I was the first female wrestler in PG County. I'm a ninja. I mean, you know, you won't know if you
all
look
these
at
kids,
it.
people coming out
Played
there.
football, played basketball, you know, 7 brothers.
Who else for?
Lots of, I mean, and people have tried to jump me, I mean, groups of people, and single-handedly. Because it's ingenuity. It's, you know, what am I going to use? Where do I go with it? I had a group of girls come at me, and I've shared this with you, but a group of girls, 10 or more of them, 1, 2, ready, go.
I want to know something. Just who else in here fights or have fought?
Self-defense.
Yeah. No, I don't have to excuse it. I just want to hear it. You ever fought?
Yeah, I've been
Mm-hmm.
You fight?
Physically or verbally?
Either way. You fight?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Who else? You fight? Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
And you fight? I know you do.
You fight? Fight can be vicious.
You fight?
Girl, fight, take you out.
Mouth. You fight?
Wasn't allowed.
But you fight. do you fight in your spirit? Is your spirit, you're divergent.
Verbally,
Yes. Where
in
do
my
you go?
mind, I'm always
Where do
fighting.
you go?
Bam! I've been cussing people out.
Then you fight. Yeah, but what I'm looking for is that everybody, yeah. And it's there in us. And that's a part that we don't want to, just like he was saying, well, I wasn't allowed to, but that wasn't the question. The question was, do you fight? And see, this is what we do because we don't want to answer, because we want to be liked. I want everybody like me. So I wasn't allowed to. But that wasn't the question. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
So I look at it multiple ways, right? So you asking me, do I fight? Now, I fought for my own path and where to find out where I was. But as far as spiritually, physically, there were always events in my life, speaking about the physical aspect of things, where I physically and spiritually wasn't allowed to. Because so I look back at events where I had people who wanted to fight me or I wanted to fight them.
You wouldn't do it.
I couldn't. Because every time I wanted to retaliate, there was something that would happen that says no. Now, when I would play fight, people say, I can't play with you. You're too strong. You're too heavy-handed. You can't. So I had to, okay.
But the answer is that you do fight.
Or he can't.
You still get it.
But he chooses.
No, he's still a fight. See, this is the problem. When I ask a question, you don't want to answer my question because you want to be liked. That was your problem. That's why you wanted me to say, oh, it's okay. keep going and you'll get there, Precious. That's why your name Precious. Because you were so precious that we don't want to hurt you. But the fight was there. The question was, do you fight? Well, I wasn't allowed to. Do you fight? Regardless of what you were allowed to and what was blocking you or handling you.
But every time the battle
But that wasn't the question. But see, that's her. That's what she does in class.
Let me
Precious. The question is, do you fight? That's the question. Do you fight? Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Precious, do you have on an orange headband?
Okay, are you asking me?
Yes. Do you have an orange headband?
Okay, no. I want to take you back for a second.
I want you to answer that
You
question.
were really asking me, I thought you,
Do you
I know
have
I
an
already
orange
answered
headband?
that question.
Do you have an
Because I
orange
said I
headband?
don't have a problem. I will
Do you have
go
on
to the
orange
floor.
headband?
I have on orange, I will fight, I got plenty of fighting.
Thank you. We're not asking you that. Don't give me the excuse. That's what I keep telling you.
But see, that's the whole thing. I was on a whole different conversation. I was on a conversation that was different. And so I didn't understand what was being.
So that's everybody fights.
Yes.
Everybody fights.
So that's the way you should look at
That's your tear.
Because that was the question.
That's your
Regardless of whether I was allowed to or not.
That's your
You can use it physical fighting versus psychological spiritual fighting. Anytime you put resistance to something, you're fighting. Fighting means resistance. So anytime if you put resistance to something, you're fighting. That means there's resistance. And resistance occurs when you have a block, and when you either denial or acceptance, you're still fighting because it's a force.
Okay, I started relaying a conversation with what I had to fight. And she interrupted and began this conversation about him.
No.
So that's what took me to him, not me. I didn't know he was talking about me at that point. That's all. That's what I'm saying.
She posed a question to everybody. She went around and posed a question to everybody.
But I had already answered the question because I was in a conversation talking about when I had fought.
Just ask the questions.
Right, but I had already answered. I didn't know it was still coming back.
She's a natural fighter.
But I think she was going
She's
back.
a very strong fighter.
She was even going back to the stuff you had said prior to about you seeing on TV.
I know, and she even said her name. That's confusing.
Let me finish for a minute. When you're talking about how you were resisting the thought of an accident, that was a fight. That was a spiritual fight on your part. When you saw the accident on TV, you said, I'm a perfect driver. That was a confrontation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She's a natural fighter.
Yeah, she is.
The question came to me, well, how can you sit there and say, oh, I haven't had an accident in 10 years? Who cares? Who cares how many years it's been? You just never had it.
Right. You don't count it until it happens again, then you're like, dang, it's been that
In
long.
other words,
I have an outstanding driver's record with GACO. Last year, it was a fender bender between me and 3 other cars. And I rammed the lady, well, I didn't ram the lady, I stepped on brakes, the guy behind me rammed me and pushed me into her. Okay, we exchanged information, she got out of the car, she said her back was hurting. And I asked her if she wanted the paramedics, and so sweet to her, had her sit in my car on the passenger side seat to get herself together, asked her if she needed attention, she said no, she was fine. The police came, asked her the same thing, she said no, she was going to a meeting, thought it was okay. A week ago, she's trying to sue me for $15,000 for negligent driving.
And you were being nice.
That was very nice, and the GEICO insurance refused her claim, so she's coming after me.
You were being nice.
Yeah, I was being nice.
You're such a Christian woman.
But I knew she was up to something because the car in front of her kept stopping.
Really?
And I was stopping. And she was going, and I said, you know what? If she don't have sense enough to get out of the lane, I will. So just when I looked out in my passenger side mirror, she stepped on brakes again, and it all happened. Just
You were
when I was
being nice again, trying to get out of her way.
Get out of her way. But when I got that paper in the mail, I saw it vividly. Even the color of the car that was in front of her, her car, and the Asian guy behind me. It was a setup. Whoever was in front of her wanted me to ram her, okay? It was a setup.
So somebody else set you up. That's what everybody in prison said.
That ain't right. That ain't right. That's what Mary said.
Right. It was a setup. But you know what's here?
It's how you
All of these things are the reasons why we cannot accept that we are God.
Yes.
And all of these things are the reason why we cannot accept that we are God.
So the
Yes.
message
we have to start listening and then accepting what comes into your life.
Say yes to everything.
Huh?
Say yes to everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Stop making excuses. Most people, when I ask them, I say, well, what do you want? Oh, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to. I didn't ask you that. I asked you, what is it that you want?
And that's the right.
But they give me all of the list of what they don't want. Well, I was there. Is that your shirt? It's in my possession. Is that your shirt? It's in my possession. Is that your shirt? It's in my possession. Now, what does that mean?
The universe can't distinguish.
It sounds like to me like this person is an attorney, a politician. They never want to answer the question. And this is what we do. We don't want to answer the question. Even when you yourself, your inner spirit, will say something to you about whatever it is that's going on. And if you don't like it, you won't answer your own question. And then you say, I don't know. Because we're good at that. And can't nobody be better at I don't know than me.
And the children, they pick it up real quick.
Yes.
Why you do? I don't know.
Who did you see? Because you taught them that.
Yeah.
Children don't listen to what you say. They see what you do. And when they see you do it, and you don't even realize that you're doing it because you're not consciously aware of what it is that you're doing.
And
so when I tell you that you are God and you have the right, the righteous right to do or to be whatever it is that you say that you want to be, but you got to be able to stand up under that mantle. If you're not, sit in the corner.
Well,
with the little dog.
I was there witnessing Marion Barry's ordeal when he was on the wrong side of the street and hit that woman head on. I happened to be over at my sister's house. So my nosy self go out there.
Yes, you are.
And went across the street to see if I could be a help.
See, there you go. What's she woman here? Go ahead.
And Bird was toe down drunk behind the wheel. And the same thing that lady did to me, she was doing to Marion Bird. She was saying, oh my back. Now mind you, the impact wasn't that great. But the irony of it, be thankful that you can walk away from it. Okay? But he was toasted and he still had the bottle in his hand. So I'm thinking he hit a curb and it sent him on the wrong side of the street, the busy part of Pennsylvania Avenue, going towards where Morton's used to be. He's in that lane coming in.
Oh, that's a busy lane.
It just so happened it was not busy. And they paid more attention to him being tipsy than making sure that he was okay. They didn't even check his vital signs or anything. Now the lady, they were all over her, okay?
Yeah.
Making sure she was okay.
And it looked nice that you had an opportunity to witness your own stuff.
And the thing is,
that's what I look at. You know, I don't think about that. I look at that I get an opportunity to see what it is, in her case, what she did.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
but the message and the whole thing is to get a hands-free device. No cell phones or anything because we take chances.
The message was for you. Your spiritual message.
Yeah, to not have my cell phone in my hand.
So you would
So I
as a distraction.
It
So
would
what
have
else
harmed,
is being
really
distracted
harmed.
by? What else is being distracted by?
What else am I being distracted by?
I don't know if you really want to answer that.
Yes, she do. When little one asks a question, right there.
Here's something for you.
Okay.
You have a lot of energy,
Right.
and you like to use the energy doing things.
All the time.
When you're not doing enough, where is that energy going?
Oh. She caused the accident.
Because you know that you have the ability to do a lot of stuff. But on the human side, on the physical side, that doesn't get into sunlight, you say, I'm tired.
And she showed herself the accident. With that energy.
They're very creative.
Very.
Now, do you realize with this conversation that you created that whole situation?
I understand I created it.
What part are you not getting out of it? There's still a lesson there for you down here that you didn't get. What is that? You said you tried to get out from behind her, but you set it up in the first place. Getting out from behind her is no longer an option. You put yourself in that position.
And even the Marion Barry situation, she said the whole thing was to get I guess, Bluetooth. So she didn't even see that she created that. Because she put herself there to even witness that accident that you're talking about.
She sees it, but it's like the conversation that you're saying. She says no to it. She sees everything. So she related the whole story back to his mom. She got it down to a science, but she chooses not to
see it,
to accept parts of it. We're asking you, can you say yes to the whole setup? Because if you put yourself in that position in the first
So you mean yes that it was my fault, or that I created?
No fault.
Okay.
You were looking for a place for creativity. And you haven't created anything positively because that's not what's going on. You're dealing with the stuff that you know down here. There's something up here that's calling you, but you don't hear it, so I have to spend it. That's what you do. And then you say, I was set up.
You were set up.
Well, yeah, I was set up. I set up to set myself up for the realization of, okay, where to put that in.
Darlene, did you know the woman personally?
No.
So how did she set you up? You said, I mean, I'm getting a lot of blame from the first part of your story. So I thought maybe you knew her and she set you up. So you don't even know her.
No, I don't know her. But there are people over there who deliberately do these. Yeah, it was on the news before that these people are on the street and they're driving and they're causing people to run into them.
But you did. If you meet those people, they're part of your experience. A lot of people here have never met those people.
Yeah, I was about to say, they got people like that. Actually,
So the fact that,
Oh, yeah.
that you met them,
It's a
that's
scam.
good.
It's a scam.
So you're a part of that scam, clearly. I don't know anyone who gets up and go and plans an accident like that.
I do know that I have.
You're subconsciously.
But I do know that I have taken my family to small claims court. Okay.
All right.
But what I did was I decided not to go to trial.
Oh.
Okay.
You didn't show up.
No, I just decided to just let the mediation go, even though I knew that it wasn't going to work. I didn't take them all the way. I didn't make them responsible for what they did.
So then it's bottom line, and I'm just asking, it's bottom line that you have to make yourself fully responsible for what you do. I'm just an Aquarius. No, nothing personal. And that's a yes or no question. That's the reason. Don't give us the reason. We don't want. We don't care about this.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess. Oh, that's one.
And that right there, when you're able to admit to yourself, I caused all of this. Okay, so what do I have to do to get myself out of this? Whatever it is. But we don't want to do it. We'll blame somebody else. Well, you did it. You should have known. You did that. No. The question is that you're there. Then how do you move to someplace else? And it's not going down here in your lower nature. It's going to your higher nature of yourself. If I'm God, then I have all authority. I say what comes into my world. I say what doesn't come into my world.
So does that to say that I'm not to hold these people responsible for what they do?
It's not about them.
It's not about them.
you.
Thank you.
You don't know her. Don't bring her into your story. What are you experiencing? What are you going through? I see you focusing on her and everybody else and leaving yourself out. Come on, you're the star of the show.
There you go. And what do I say when you come into the class? You are the most important person here. Nobody is more important than you. The most important person. And we got to dig through all the layers and pull them back and hold them back. And, okay, don't say nothing. Be quiet. Be quiet. Do really quiet. Until you see who you are. That's why you get the gift that you get when you first come into the class. I didn't do it for everybody. I think I needed to some people. One-on-one people got it. That's why you get that gift. Ain't no joke when you really start, knowing who you are and discovering your own spirituality. And it's a nasty fight only if you want it to be a nasty fight, because you're only fighting yourself. The only thing we're here is to put the training, help you with your training wheels, to show you when you are reflecting back what you don't want to see. That's not being mean or hard or nasty or anything. It's you stepped up here. You crossed the threshold. You said, I want to be enlightened. I want to get spiritual. I don't know what meditate. All those little things that you thought that it was. And it's your regular, everyday life. Because you can't separate church and state. One and the same.
Yep.
Is there a good side of a quarter or a bad side of a quarter? Any other questions, concerns?
Come on. Okay, we spoke just a smidgen on intimacy, relationship, copulation. What about marriage? Is that like a whole different subject we could do another day, maybe?
We should come to first Friday females night. When we talk about that, because we don't even discuss about relationships until yours clear. That's the problem. Most women are going out here trying to find somebody, and they're not clear about who they are, first of all, because then you don't even know what to pick.
But
so there should not even be any discussion about that until you're real clear about who am I as a woman, and what man do I go out here to pick to impregnate me or to spend the rest of my life with me.
Okay, but see, once you pass the impregnation part, see, then I'm talking about the relationship part and actually commitment to each other.
The first relationship is with
myself.
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't even talk about that first. So until we know that you're really clear here, then you can go and bring somebody else into your marriage.
Okay, so what I want to know is marriage something that we are in agreement with, kind of thing? Like, is that like officially something that, can you just choose to be like mates versus,
you can choose anything you want.
The piece of paper, is that what you're trying to get?
You don't have to have a piece of paper.
When you're actually married in the
No,
state,
like the conversation that we've had is like,
well, first of all, when you say that you want to marry somebody, the marriage has already taken place. It's already happened. That's why they say when God, meaning the universe, is put together, let no man put asunder. You've already made the commitment. Now you can go downtown and get the white man's okay, so put my name on the paper, so if I decide that I don't want to be with him, then I'm going to take all his money. You can do that. You can do that. Yes, you can do anything that you want. Yes.
what we take it from here, Precious. Before you meet anybody, the marriage is already in place. You have a person, whether it will be positive or negative for you, you already got it. When you meet a person, you then find out if they fit into that category that you think that you want. But it's already past your decision on this Lord level because you chose on that when you got here.
Well, see, you remember we spoke, both of us as a kid said we didn't want to get married. And so I set up the scenario for myself throughout my life where I had really, really great friends, and I've been engaged 17 times. 5 times with a ring.
Damn! I'm trying to tell you. I don't have no problem.
All I'm saying is that
commitment. Is that something that we all agree we should shoot for? But you got somebody else. Those kinds of commitments can still be considered a good woman. You know what I'm saying? Without a virtuous woman kind of thing.
You're talking to me. We're talking about marriage, real marriage, that I said already existed. You're talking about after you got here, some kind of thoughts that you had, like the brother was talking about. He was talking about you have a thought, and that thought already happened. So if you want to deal with that, you can deal with that. If you want to deal with it's in place in you, who you are, if we go from an astrology, since you're studying that, your first house, rising sign, that's you. 7th house, that's your partner. But your partner is you, because that's your child. So that's what you have to come to grips with. The people out there are just going to get in line with whatever's in you already. If you don't, and that's what you're really talking about, if you don't know what's in you, you're going to have a bumpy ride because everybody that you pick is going to be exactly who you are. But you keep rejecting it, so you're not accepting yourself on the higher plane because you don't know that other person. You think you're just this 50%. Well, that's not. 50% is okay. It's not going to get you there. You're all of that. That's what she's saying. You are the goddess. You're all of that. You haven't embraced that yet. And that's okay. You're on the journey. You're becoming aware of it. We all are becoming aware of it. We are all of that. And we have a hard time doing that.
Good answer. You can. Thank you.
Yeah, I just punched it hard. Any other questions, concerns? Announcements? I don't punch too hard?
No, you punch true, but that's what they don't hear. They will feel hurt.
So I need to punch a little bit harder.
That's what everybody's here for. The punches, okay? But I think they don't be scared.
Flower like word.
Yeah.
It's more like that.
Yeah.
You should say that to me. I'm not saying to God, we go on. I think that's what you do. That's not going on.
Okay, so any announcements of things that are going on?
Yes. Just a reminder, we do have the meditation here at IC Tuesday through Friday at noon. Also, we have our silent retreat on October 3rd through the 5th. There are some flyers. If anyone hasn't gotten a flyer or an email about the retreat, August 3rd to the 5th. And there's also our Chi Social. That will be the 22nd of this month, 2 weeks Friday, Dynamic Wellness. So that's pretty much it.
And we have the first female Fridays. I guarantee you females, if you come, you're going to hear something that your mama never told you. She probably doesn't even know.
And our Emerald Ball, September 27th.
Yes, it's 7 to 8:30. And it's free. But if you can give a donation, that's wonderful and great. too.
Emerald Ball is when?
The Emerald Ball is 27th. It's our dance. It's everything healthy and bring food and we're going to be getting down to music dance.
And the location.
You have to dress like a king or a queen.
And the location.
And the location is Bethesda Communities Center on Friendship Boulevard.
And we have to dress in all green?
Yeah, just all green or all white.
Okay.
But like a king or a queen. I think we have some flyers.
Not for the Emerald Ball.
No.
Just with the, I'll show you it. I'll just kind of have a rough design. And I heard that they wanted to hear some spoken word is going to be there as well. I actually started writing, so I'll share the opening and then you can hear the rest.
And where?
At the Emerald Ball.
He's talking about the program.
Right.
Don't talk.
You tell them.
Keep it a surprise.
But
Keep the words.
the words.
Right.
Because then people's mind, I've been out here.
No, this is just the opening right now. This is one.
No. An artist should always reveal active at the event, not before. No pre-birth.
And then we have, of course, our spiritual classes that started in September. This year they'll be on Tuesday nights. It's a 3-year commitment. And we do more of this, but with books too. And it's homework. So don't be scared, just jump on in. I think that's
What's the date? It's all in September.
It's the first Tuesday after Labor Day, so I think that's what Okay, so no questions. So we're going to pray ourselves out. There's watermelon, there's pineapple in the back,
Sweet potato.
there's sweet potatoes.
That's it.
We can say a prayer. We do girl, boy in here, and it's thumbs left. When you hold hands. And I think we have more women today. Last week we had more men. So maybe we have to do what, 2 men and then we see each woman. At least, okay. All right. We made there. All right. You and me. All right, so we stand on a square. Just use your nail side. And say to yourself, peace, be still. Be still and know that you are the one that we've been waiting for. Your true divine self. Have the courage and take the responsibility of being that divine being.
breathe. Breathe in that strength, that wisdom, and that healing that you are. You are the divine. We thank our guides, guards, ancestors, ancient ones, and the ones who come before us. And for this time that we spent together in oneness and harmony, we say Ashe, 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 Ashe. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Give us a hug. Give
Do it twice in one night.
You said premonition to what I need to look at when it comes to mom and students and and I was like, hey, that just happened. Man, yes, sir.